Welcome to the Financial Flossing podcast with Ross Brannan, guiding dental professionals to a brighter future. Ross Brannan is a financial advisor who knows it's not just about your teeth. He helps dental practice owners protect and maximize today's cash flow to plan for tomorrow's cash needs. Find him at rossbrannan.com. On the show, he brings together experts to help dental professionals looking to make smart money decisions to grow their income, turn their retirement goals into reality, and improve their lives. And now, here's your host, Ross Brannan.
Welcome to the show. My guest today is Stephen Hatcher. Stephen is a practicing dentist at Triad Dentistry in Greensboro, North Carolina. He is a University of North Carolina alum and received an impressive research grant while attending there. He served with the Armed Forces at Fort Meade and has earned many military honors and awards. He's an active member of many dental associations, such as the Academy of General Dentistry. And today he is a guest on the Financial Flossing podcast. Stephen, thanks for coming on.
Hey, great to be here, Ross. Good to see you.
You too, man. So let's jump right in. You and I have known each other for several years, and you have a little bit different track than a lot of people. So tell me from the beginning, what made you want to become a dentist?
Honestly, the thing that made me want to become a dentist first was originally I was going to go to medical school. And I remember, being at a dental visit in college, and my family dentist was like, "You don't want to do that." He's like, "You'll make a lot of money, but you'll never have any time to enjoy it." He said, I go to the beach every single weekend. And he said, that guy over there, that physician over there, he's always working. He never has any time off. So come watch me and let me know what you think. So I saw how I went to go shadow him. I was like, I could do. He made it look easy. I was like, I could do this. And what attracted me was like work with your hands and helping someone's self-esteem. And I was like, work with your hands, be your own boss, create your own future. This sounds like a good fit for me.
That's pretty cool right there. So talk about your military service. What motivated that? And was that part of your plan with dentistry, and how that fit in with everything?
Well, my dad he was Special Forces enlisted, and he always told me, you're never going in the Army. You're never going in the Army, even as an officer. And so I had no intention of going into the service. And as soon as I got into dental school, he called a recruiter and wanted to see if there was scholarships. And there were, and I applied, and I started doing my due diligence, which is a key word in life, check up on things. And I talked to some dentists that had gone through it and the realities of the private sector, right when you would graduate from dental school. And, I was like, well, I could get my school paid for, make a modest salary, and really hone in on my craft, for 4 years. And what's wrong with that? And so, I'm a long-term thinker, in the short run, it would have been better. But in the long run, it paid huge dividends because the training that I got in the Army is second to none. And they wanted to train you so that the special training that I did in the Army, they wanted to train you so that if they sent you downrange to Iraq, Afghanistan, something like that, if anything that came in your door, you needed to be able to handle. So, yeah. That's paid huge dividends for me in the private sector.
So you were there for 4 years. Did you get deployed at all?
I don't know if I'd call it a deployment, but I was stationed in Korea, South Korea, and I was 10 kilometers from the DMZ. And it was a little tense up there. There was one base that was closer to North Korea. And you could literally, from Camp Greaves, you could literally see the North Korean flag from that base. From my base, 10 kilometers back, I don't think you could see it. At least I don't remember.
Okay.
But we were pretty close.
So describe your practice and the service you offer to patients. You're a general dentist, but a lot of general dentists are typically cleanings and cavities, maybe a little other stuff. You're a little bit different. Talk about that.
So I would, describe it in one word is just comprehensive. The only thing that we really don't do is ortho. But, just about anything that someone needs, whether it's, an endo or a complex restorative, IV sedation, just about, anything anybody needs, we have the bandwidth and the skill set to do it well.
Talk about the philosophy of being comprehensive, because In my experience, very few generals are comprehensive in that way. They would rather refer it out. So what was your thought process behind that?
Well, there's two ways I think about comprehensive. One is, looking at everything. And then the other side of it is having a comprehensive skill set. So on one hand, I believe I've spent a fortune developing myself in many ways, clinically and professionally, for my clinical skill set, which is, on the comprehensive side, as being a holistic practitioner, and then, offering comprehensive treatment to patients. But like, I also will say that early in my career, you have to meet people where they are, so like, somebody, I don't know, somebody may need a lot of work, or they may need a lot of stuff, and you can blow them out of the water, but just meet people where they are and give them what they want. And then, excel in, whatever that particular problem is, it's, bothering that patient, take care of that. And then you have a chance to do, more stuff. But sometimes people get so focused in I got to do everything. I got to tell them everything that's wrong. And they may not be ready for that. Just like you, sometimes I'm sure with with some of your clients, I'm sure sometimes they could benefit from, complete planning, but they may only want XYZ product or,
Right.
Whatever. So you got to meet them where they are.
No, that's a good point. So I know you're an avid learner, and I know that you love to stay ahead of trends and really kind of be on the forefront of where the industry is going. What do you see happening in the industry, and how are you positioning you in your practice?
I see solo practitioners going by the wayside. I think it's still going to be possible, to be a solo practitioner, but I don't think it's going to make a lot of sense. I see a lot of consolidation. There's a lot of, Wall Street is yield starved right now, and there's no safe yield. So there's unintended consequences, in my opinion, of that, with bond yields being so low. So people are, Wall Street's looking for stable cash flow. So a lot of people are buying up dental practices.
So you're speaking of the DSO infiltration of the industry, correct?
Correct.
And so we have a mutual friend who predicts in 5 years, 75% of dental practices will be owned by DSOs. What is your thought on that?
I don't think it'll be that high.
Okay.
I really don't. I think that's unrealistic.
So how long have you been practicing?
So I graduated in 2002, and I started here in the practice I'm at now in 2008.
Okay, so if you were graduating from dental school today, do you think you would be able to replicate what you have done? Or do you think the industry is so different in the last 15 to 20 years, the evolution, that it would be hard to replicate what you've done?
It was hard a few years ago, but could it be done? Absolutely. It could still be done. The problem is, or the challenge for most people, is their belief system and who they believe and who they read and who they listen to. But there's always room for excellence. There's always room for growth. I just think there's an abundance. I believe, to my core, I believe that. Could it be done? Absolutely. Would it be easy? I don't think anything worthwhile is easy.
So I know you do a lot of personal development outside of dentistry. Talk about that and really how that's helped you achieve the success you've achieved in your practice.
Everything it's all mindset, and I've tried to learn and model from people in the top of the industry, of my industry. So I'll meet somebody and they'll give me they'll start telling me why they can't be successful in their current position, and I'll challenge them on that, and I'll say there's got to be somebody in your field, your industry, who's crushing it, who you look up to in your field. And I said, can you think of, I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago with someone, and he thought about it. He goes, yeah, there's thought of a few people. I was like, well, go talk to them, find out how they did it. They probably hired a coach. They probably didn't figure it out on their own. When you try to figure things out on your own, you got a sample size of one versus, you can leverage other people. Most people only think of leverage in terms of financial leverage. Like, oh, I put 20% down on my house and the bank gave me the other 80%. People only think of leverage that way, but there's way more powerful leverage, in my opinion. Knowledge, learning from others, reading books. I mean, that's the ultimate leverage, is knowledge and other people's experiences versus a sample size of one.
So if we kind of go back to your practice for a minute, because people don't really understand, they may not have an understanding of they don't know you. How many days a week are you in the office?
Well, that's getting ready to change, but by November, I'm going to be 2 days a week.
And currently you're what now?
Currently I'm 4, but there's some there's some health reasons why I have to be there, more than I want to right now. But by November 1, I should be 2 days a week going forward.
But how many weeks a year are you traveling? Or how many weeks a month are you traveling? Because every time I talk to you, you're typically on an airplane or a different country.
Yeah.
Or a resort somewhere.
Probably about 9 weeks, probably, 9 weeks. I think in 2019, I think we went to like 9 countries right before, once COVID hit, I was looking back, I was like, man, we went to a lot of places. I'm glad we did that before everything shut down.
So that's 4 days a week, but you're out at least 9 weeks traveling. And that's probably not including, holidays if you stay in town. So you've structured a practice that really gives you the best of both worlds. You can go as you please, travel, vacation with your family, and earn a phenomenal income. And so in my experience, and you and I have had this conversation before, when we talk about specifically general dentist, and I'm putting you in that category for now.
Sure.
You'd see people who make a good income, not an extravagant income, maybe 250 to 350, if you will. And in essence, they kind of own a job. It's a good job, but they kind of own a job. And then you and I have some friends who are generals who are well into 7 figures. And the difference is they're basically business owners who just happen to be a licensed dentist. Talk about the mindset difference between the two, and also like working in versus working on your practice.
Well, the 7-figure guy, first of all, believes it's possible.
I'm catching a theme. I'm catching a theme here.
Yeah, mindset. So they believe. Like thoughts are powerful. People don't give enough credit to thoughts. Thoughts are one of the most powerful forces that we're.
Let me give a real quick plug. Are you familiar with Kevin Elko?
No, do I need to be?
Yes, he works with Nick Saban in Alabama.
Okay.
And he works with Nick Saban in Alabama. He's got a relatively new book out called Seeing is Believing, and he does a lot of stuff in different industries, speaking to public people. You would love it. I'm making my daughter read his book, Seeing is Believing, right now because she has a tournament coming up. But anyway, go on about belief system, 7-figure guys.
Yeah, because like everything begins with a thought. So thoughts lead to actions. Actions lead to over time lead to behavior. Behavior over time leads to character. Character over time determines your destiny. But your destiny started a long time ago with a thought. So people have a thermostat. So most people, are comfortable at a certain range. So like their bank balance, there's a certain amount of money that people like to have in their bank balance, and there's something called a deserve level. And the guy who makes 250, 300 thinks that's what he deserves, and he will sabotage himself through belligerent, self-defeating actions that will prevent him from making more than that. And if it goes below a certain amount, he's like, no, I'm a $250,000 guy, then he will do things to bring him back up. So that thermostat, that belief system is, it's real, and it's really powerful. And one other thing that I would say is like, I really am very intentional about what I allow to come into my brain. So I literally don't watch the news. I control the input. I choose the books I'm going to read. I have a morning routine. I read the Bible just about every single day, chapter corresponding month, Proverbs. And, I control and I choose what I put into my brain, because that's going to affect your thoughts. So if you're watching the news, I get my news from memes, so like somebody, so I have an idea what's going on, but I'm like, oh, okay, we have a transsexual person and then the head of government now. Okay. So I'm serious. I don't watch network news. I, kind of get when something really bad happens, figure somebody will tell me, but I really have not, watched network news. Maybe every 4 years when the election's coming around, I want to see who's going to win. But I focus on my economy. I don't focus on the economy. I focus on what I can control. I can't control interest rates. Can't control what China's doing.
That's really good right there. Say that again. Your economy versus the economy.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can focus on is my economy. I focus on what I can control. I can control,
So you're very much dictating what you're going to do to the world or in the world versus letting the world dictate to you what's going to happen to you. So
exactly.
So yeah. And so you say, in your opinion, that is probably the biggest difference between the 7-figure earner and the 250 to 350 earner.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So talk a little bit about what do you do or what have you done for personal development outside of, industry training? You and I have talked a little bit about this before, but what are your things you've done in the past?
I think, Jim, I work really hard on myself. And, I think the late Jim Rohn said that work harder on yourself than you do in your job and you can make a fortune. And I don't think there's a better ROI out there. Some people approach me about investments and, where to put money and how to invest and that sort of thing. And I tell everybody, your best bet, your best investment is you. There's no better ROI than investing in you. And that's where it's at. So like, Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, Jim Rohn, all that stuff, it's there. And the other thing is I've hired coaches, so I've had experts at the top of the field help me get to where I am.
And those coaches weren't cheap, were they?
No, they weren't. Well, I think they're cheap.
I know where you're going. Like your ROI wasn't that much, but at first glance, a lot of people might get sticker shock at the cost.
Yeah, most people would. But not once you have the knowledge, you have it for as long as you're living. So they really should be charging more than they do. But you do your due diligence and you find other people, but the themes are the same. It doesn't matter if you're a dental practice, medical practice. It's business is business, and every single business, the chokehold point is usually the owner. So the owner, nobody. I just tell you, this friend of mine has a siding company, and he does really, really well, and he's made some changes in his business, but before that, he was the chokehold. Like nobody could do quotes as good as he could. Nobody could talk to the customers as good as he could. And if you have that belief system and you believe that, you're always going to be limited. And it doesn't matter the industry. It literally doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
Right. Let me change gears here. You recently had an offer from a DSO. DSOs are buying practices everywhere at high multiples. Lots of people have sold. I know lots of people have sold for large numbers. You had a really good offer and you almost sold, but then you backed out. Talk about that. Talk about your rationale there, because a lot of people probably wouldn't have done what you did. So talk about that.
Well, curiosity. I was just curious, because you hear these stories, and it was a relative financially, it was cheap to see what, just kicking the tires just to see what you could get. I'm just curious, but ultimately, and everybody should go through that exercise, just see what you would get. But ultimately, if you work, whatever a payback is, 4 or 5 years, you're exactly where you were to begin with. So people are, selling the golden goose, that lays the egg. And,
That's it right there.
I mean, why would you? You've got there's a reason they want it. And for some people, it might be solving a problem, but, define that problem and ask like, well, what problem are you going to be solving for me? Because they have way more sophisticated lawyers and accountants and, that sort of thing than you could ever dream to have. And it's not going to work out in your favor. It's really not. And as these things get rolled up, I know some people that have been involved in those, the culture gets shittier and shittier. And so I'm, I have no intention to ever sell to an organization like that. I'm going to do a non-traditional approach, but it's not in your favor. But if you're like 60, 65, it depends on what you have going on in your life too. Like my daughter is going to be 9 next month. I mean, I'm not going anywhere for 10 years, and I think you need purpose. I think the Lord blesses you with skills and gifts, and you need purpose in this life, and you just can't sit there and count your money all day. You've been blessed with a gift. You need to share that gift. You need to serve and obey. And that's how I look at it.
Yeah. I don't think you and I are big retirement people. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do what we do until we die. But I just like, you and I both know some people in their 40s who have sold for big numbers. And, it sounds cool to, I'm going to manage my investments full time. And you may do that. But I don't think it's a full-time job for most people. And you're going to get bored.
So I'm, have the plan in works to get down to 2 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I've got, long weekends on the regular work week. And I can focus on, working on, the business, like Marketing Monday. But, I'm not going to be in it as much. And I can do that forever,
Right.
And even if I made 15% less, and I didn't have to, real wealth is time freedom, but you still need purpose. Like, when
Right.
COVID shut down, I couldn't work for a couple months because we were mandated to be shut down. I mean, like, that's what retirement looks like. That would not be good.
I'm with you.
And the other thing I would tell you is that people are I'm just going to say it. Most dentists are unsophisticated and they're not sophisticated thinkers. Well, that's the population in general. It's not just dentists, but they get presented this big number and they don't understand how the math works. And they'll play with the numbers and it's like, oh, that's not enough money. And then they'll give them, a higher, initial cash, payout. But then what they do on the other end, it's like a seesaw. And then on the other end, they lower your owner compensation, and they don't realize they're playing with these numbers. And then they're like, after 3 or 4 months, they're like, I'm tired of working for 20% of collections, and, but they don't realize it, but it doesn't, the ink is signed, the ink is dried. Now that's your legacy. That's what you're leaving behind. And they're just too unsophisticated to realize what happened.
That 3-year earnout doesn't seem like long when you sign that piece of paper. And then about 6 months in, it seems like it's eternity.
Right. Yeah.
So let me change gears and ask you a couple of questions here on the tail end that I ask everybody. What advice would you give a new dental school grad?
I would work really hard on yourself. And that is a broad umbrella term. I would learn business. I would learn sales and marketing, and I would also focus pretty heavily on, your clinical education.
Whoa. Sales and marketing. I'm a dentist. Why do I need to learn sales and marketing if I'm a dentist?
Are you married? Are you married?
I'm married. I got 5 kids.
So you had to sell yourself to your wife, right? I mean, she just didn't say, everybody's in sales.
You would argue that I had to sell myself to her 5 times.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's in sales.
Well, Daniel Pink has that book, To Sell is Human. Sales gets this bad rap, but everything you own or use was sold at some point in time. That carpet right behind you was sold by someone probably multiple times. That desk, that coffee mug.
Yeah. Now there's ethical ways to do it. And there are but everybody is in sales, in my opinion.
Right.
It's not, but people think like, oh, the, used car salesman and that sort of thing. And I mean, that's not how I present. I mean, usually people ask me to do the treatment, but you gotta, dental school is just basics. It's just the absolute, it's like public health dentistry. It's the basics. And if you want to focus, if you want to be independent of insurance companies, you need to focus on what patients want. And what patients want is function. They want cosmetics. They want self-esteem, but you don't learn that in 4 years of dental school. So you need to go to Spear, Pankey, Coyce, one of those institutes. I spent a lot of time over there, and it's fun. I mean, it transforms lives, and it's, but you also got to learn how to get it off the shelf. So you got to get step one, get it on the shelf. Step two, you need to get the sales and marketing skills over here, so, ideally your sales and marketing skills, would be higher than your, your clinical ability. Most time it's the reverse. And that's why most people, they've got all this know-how, but they can't get it on the shelf. They can't get it off the shelf to the patient.
If you're the best dentist in the world, but no one knows who you are, you cannot help anybody.
Even if it's in you have like, a couple thousand patients in your practice, you don't know how to present to them. You don't know how to sell to them. You don't know how to ask the right questions about how they want things to look, so,
Right.
So you don't even have to go off the street. They're already in your chair. They're already in your practice.
Right. So I know you're a big reader. What are you reading right now, or what did you just finish reading?
I finished reading a few things. I read, they were really impactful. One was Atomic Habits.
Dude, I'm reading that right now. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great. I read, almost finished with Crucial Conversations. That's really good. Cybernetics, is put that one on there. It's really good. This plastic surgeon fixed people's disfigurements, and a lot of, more often than not, like they still saw themselves disfigured. And he realized like there's a big psychological component, so it's an older book, but it's really good. It's called Cybernetics. And, it just comes back down to mindset and how you see yourself and how you think about things. And then
Nice.
The 5 a.m. Club, I, recently finished the 5 a.m. Club. That was really good. Doing 4-hour body. How efficient those workouts are really blowing my mind.
It is. Well, it's crazy. I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I know he's got workouts in there that are 5 minutes because I read that a few years ago, but I kind of like it. I'd rather have a 45-minute workout where it at least feels like I'm doing more.
Yeah.
I mean, so because it's psychological in that regard. So if listeners want to reach out to you, get in touch with you, or connect with you because you challenge their thinking and they're like, hold on, this guy is looking at things differently, how can they connect with you?
They don't. They don't. I mean, I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to meet anybody new. I do. So I do. It's real simple. You don't. I don't want to talk to anybody. Like a lot of people are on these things. I do these things for friends, but it's always the same response. Like I don't want anybody else in my life.
Here's the thing. Culture is busy. Life is busy. You can only manage so many relationships. I was listening to a pastor talk recently. He's like, he gets like 50 people a week ask him, will you be my father, like my spiritual dad? And he's like, sorry, no, not enough time. I got my own kids. I got my own things. It's like, so I understand people's desire. He was like, I appreciate the request, but I can't fulfill that need for you. I'm sorry, which is the best answer you can give somebody. So that's fair. So obviously, Stephen is not open to any new friends. However, if you reach out to me, I might could slip you his contact information.
You better not. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. I am writing a book.
Oh yeah, didn't I?
Did I tell you about the title?
Well, I think you and I talked about. I was pushing you I was pushing you to do some coaching. But then if you do coaching, you got new relationships. You can't do that. So, what's the title of your book?
Retire Along the Way.
Oh yeah, you did mention that. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Have you started?
So I already bought the domain. So I'm going to do it as a, metaphor. It's going to be a metaphor. Probably have like a couple brothers or a brother, sister, there's going to be something like it'll be a metaphor. Like rich dad, poor dad is a metaphor, but
Right.
I think, too many people aren't living their purpose and are waiting to get old to enjoy life. And I think it's a shame.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and most people don't realize that retirement is a 20th century invention, basically.
Yeah, from the Ottoman Bismarck.
Well, like most bad ideas, it came from Germany. And you can say what you want about the Germans, but they are notorious for really bad worldwide ideas that take on. So if you're German, I'm sorry, but history is not on your side in that regard. So, but yeah, it was a government idea basically, and it was a German idea, and it's like late 1800s, early 1900s, and it really became big in America kind of after World War II. But it's almost like it's a right or something. It's in the Constitution. Like at 65, it's a right to retire, and so it's like
right.
And honestly, some people are probably getting offended just hearing us talk about it like this, and it's just like I just think there's a better way. And of course, my view is really very much shaped by my dad's early retirement and seeing what it did to his life. And so that's another topic for another day. So we'll kind of end it there. Stephen and I could talk for hours because we're friends outside of this, but it's been fascinating to talk to you. I learned a couple of things that I didn't know about you, and I want to thank you for being here today. I appreciate your time.
All right, man. Good seeing you.
All right, guys. You've been listening to the Financial Flossing Podcast with Ross Brandon. We'll tune in for the next episode.
This has been another episode of Financial Flossing with Ross Brannon, guiding dental professionals to a brighter future. If you liked what you heard, consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. For more on Ross Brannon, visit rossbrannon.com.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by PAS, Guardian, or North Florida Financial, and opinions stated are their own. Ross is a registered representative and financial advisor of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS, OSJ, 3664 Coolidge Court, Tallahassee, Florida, 32311, 850-562-9075. Securities products and their advisory services offered through PAS, member FINRA, SIPC, financial representative of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. PAS is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. North Florida Financial is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. Arkansas Insurance License number 161390032. California Insurance License number 0L10073. 2021 124595. Expires 0623.